All right. Hello. Good evening, everybody. Let's make sure that. Oh, yep. There we go. Hey. Hi, critics. Welcome. What do we say here? Live from Denver. It is Friday night.
It sure
and
is.
welcome to another edition of Critical Conversations. Hey, everybody. Very happy you could join us this evening. We have lots of good things to talk about. There, the comment section starting to fill up there. Hey, critics. Happy to see all the usual suspects here. This is going to be, I don't know, kind of interesting. You know, we're as you can see, I am joined by my beautiful wife, Melissa.
Hello, hello, hello.
And I am very, very happy that she is here today. Because we have a topic to talk about that I did not want to talk about without her here. And so she is feeling a little under the weather, so you guys got to be nice. But we do have some couple little fun things for the show here. And hey, Virginia and everybody, Tigiak in the house. Yeah, we got this Texas thing to talk about, but we have some other things to go over first. And I want to, right from the get-go, encourage everyone who's got something to say. This is a call-in show, and I do want to hear from you guys. We really do, especially on this one. 984-214-4154 is the number right there on the screen. And okay, but first, let's get some of the good and fun stuff out of the way, because we have good and fun stuff to discuss. And one of those things, in fact, maybe the first thing we should drop is today is Seven's birthday.
Yeah.
Seven the Wonder Cat has a birthday, and that birthday is now, today.
Yeah,
so
he's a 15-year-old kitty now.
15 years old. That is unbelievable. And in recognition of this monumentous day, rather than have Seven Cam, we have put together a little Seven slideshow because we got, there he is. We got him a little birthday bandana, I guess you could say, or, you know, tied it around his neck there. And it says, birthday boy on it right there. And we have, let me slide my, yeah, you can sort of see that there. There are some more pictures coming. There we go. There's our little guy, ferocious. Quite ferocious, he is. And there he is again. You can see with the little thing. Melissa got a ton of pictures of him today. So we just selected a few of them for your viewing pleasure. But there he is, all up close and personal. And I hope you guys can see that okay. I know it's not full screen. It would have been a little bit technically difficult for me to do that today easily. So I just thought, well, I've got this TV back here for this exact reason. So let me start, using it for some slideshow action here. So there's another shot of him right there. I love little close-up shots like this.
He's eating his drugs. He's eating his catnip.
His birthday present, you mean?
Yeah.
And there he is. There's a nice shot of him there, looking off into space, starting to contemplate his existence, 15-year existence there, and now he's starting to think, well, maybe I'll just lay down and enjoy
contemplating his existence. Now he needs a nap.
Exactly. And there is a little bit more there, and even more, just kind of chilling with the nip. Yeah. Okay, there he is. That's the thinker shot. There he is, deep in thought.
Back to contemplating existence.
That's right, contemplating the what's the word for that? I guess existence, the existential crisis. There we go. Yes, contemplating that, and up close, right in your face there. There he is. And last couple shots
and
here.
Here is the I own you.
Yes, the last one there. As you can see, the total indifference to anything that is not him. So there's our little guy, our little bundle of furry love for this week, and we wanted to throw that out there. because he's the birthday boy today. So there you go. Every day is an existential crisis, right? Exactly. Okay, so Seven's birthday today, so there you go. So we wanted to try that, see how that would work.
Yeah.
Okay, then the other thing I wanted to share with you guys that was kind of fun this week, in fact, it just happened today, is also I have told you guys, we've been kind of marking the milestones and talking about the progress on my university study. And I am really excited right now about my program and getting, because I'm really digging in now on this master's thesis. The final step of the program is turning in this, I think it's a 15,000 word essay or thesis. And I'm doing it on. I turned in the ethics application today for the university approval for the project. Standard thing, everybody has to do it. I'm not doing. It has questions on the ethics application like, are you using human tissue samples and research type questions, because they want to make sure that people are not engaged in unethical research. And I've got varying degrees of opinions on certain aspects of that, but I get the whole point, and it's right, and it's true, and it should be done. So I don't have any real human tissue needs or DNA, or I'm not even surveying people for my research. This is mostly a secondary sources study and analysis. And I think I've mentioned it before, but I'll tell you guys now that the thesis will be on confessionals, and Scientology confessionals in particular. So that should be kind of fun, because I'll be doing a little breakdown on how that is, how Scientology uses confessionals in as a method of coercive control. And if you guys have been, following me for any length of time, then I talk about a guy named Robert J. Lifton, who wrote a book called the psychology of totalism, that, and authority and that kind of thing. And he's got 8 points of coercive control, of authoritarian, control that any group or cult that engages in that kind of activity are going to engage in. Loaded language, for example. We've talked all about loaded language. That's a Lifton point. And another Lifton point is confession, or confession culture. And confession is a means of emotional relief, but it's also a means of control. So I'll be doing my my paper on that. But what I was excited about today was the QAnon paper that I did, which was the last essay that I turned in. It was a research proposal to do research on QAnon. I'm not going to do that research. I'm not going to give that proposal to somebody to give me money to do it. But it was the exercise was to write a research proposal, and I got a great grade on it. I got a 68, and that's not on the American system. It's on the British system, which means it's 68's like 2 points below with distinction kind of thing. So I was quite happy about that, and I decided in celebration of that this weekend I will post my essays on my blog. So if you guys are subscribed to my mncriticalthinking.com website, my blog, then you will, or if you just want to go there, in a couple days, then you'll see my 4 academic exercises, my essays posted there, and you can check them out for yourself. So they were kind of fun to do, and you can see that. So cool. All right. Yeah, because I get you guys asking, to post my, hey, I want to see your essays. And I've always been like, but now I feel comfortable enough about it. And that's really, that was the big barrier on that. I don't think you guys are going to find them incredibly interesting, but who knows? The QAnon one, I think you will. Actually, I'm quite proud of that QAnon paper, and I think you guys will maybe enjoy that one. Okay, now, do we want to do your quote now? Or should we wait till...
Well, we can talk about the one from last week, I guess.
Yes. Let's do that.
Yeah.
Good.
So the one from last week, the quote I had was from Stephen Fry about depression. And he said, "It's hard to be a friend to someone who's depressed, but it is one of the kindest, noblest, and best things you will ever do." So we did read that one last week, but we didn't get a chance to get anybody's feedback if they have any.
Fair enough. So... if y'all have feedback on that Stephen Fry quote, then please go ahead and give it to us in the comments. Or, of course, you can call in and talk to us. Excellent. We do have a call in the queue. And on that note, of course, we are going to be talking in the show here today. In addition to that, because you guys can call in at any point and talk about that or anything else you want to. It looks like we've also got a call in the queue right now on the issue of women's rights. And that's, of course, the main topic of our show this week. For those of you who don't know, Texas passed a law that it heavily restricts abortion. And we're not really happy with that. And the Supreme Court had the opportunity to hear this case. That's the usual sort of thing that we kind of come to expect from the Supreme Court, is that controversial laws are passed by states and it goes up, through the channel of the court system and ends up in front of the Supreme Court. If no lower court makes, final adjudications about it, that it gets appealed up to the Supreme Court. And this law, Supreme Court didn't want to hear about it. And by default, what that means is the law stands. And so this law is now going into effect, and it's quite bad for those who believe that or think that abortion is a woman's right, is something that should be a decision that is made on a personal level, not at a legislative level. And that happens to be where Mel and I stand on this. And I didn't want to do this show without her. So because I know she's got a lot of things to say about this. So if you want to pipe in at any point as well. What I wanted, my approach on this week, though, and I kind of, in our discussions about this, I thought, it was sort of along the lines of my, my field anyway, is I believe personally that that abortion law that restricts women's rights is a form of coercive control, or at least there's an intent there to control. And this is not original to me. I mean, lots of women have said this is about controlling women. This is not about politics. It's not about it's not about the Bible. It's not about reproductive rights. It's about control. It's not about saving lives, rather. It's about control. And the more I think about it, the more that just seems to be a very simple cut through the, kind of Occam's razor sort of explanation of what's going on in a broad sense, as well as with Texas specifically. And we're not really too cool with that.
No.
There is, I've spent a lot of time thinking and looking and reading about the opposing point of view. That people believe that it is murder, that you are destroying a life, and that collection of cells that is growing into a human body is actually a human being, fully realized, and needs to be protected in the same way that any other life needs to be protected. I don't agree with that point of view. I don't think that that's particularly true. I think from a scientific point of view, you do not have a viable life entity there. And I think that's what the whole birthing process is all about, is, then the baby is out and boom, there's the living, human being. And when you have, of course, the real critical part of this is that abortion is not something that a lot of women are using for birth control. No. It's almost,
it's so absurd. I mean, I'm a woman. I have had women friends that have told me all about their abortions, and no one's doing it for birth control. Like maybe 0.00001% or something. Most women are doing it for a reason. It's not just, birth control, I'm going to do it 20 times, no way.
Exactly. I mean, having my own background with this in terms of how Scientology and the Sea Org used abortion to control and retain members, and how I contributed to that in my previous marriage with my ex-wife, in that I leaned on her, and the entire organization was leaning on her, and I went along with that because I got a rather severe talking to, I guess you could say. It was more of a yelling match, but it was quite a severe reality adjustment, when I was in the Sea Org about how, this abortion was going to happen because it was not acceptable or ethical that she or I would leave the Sea Org to go have a baby. This was just absolutely unacceptable in Scientology. And this was back in the late 1990s. So, and I have, my degree of guilt and responsibility for that, and I felt pretty bad about it over the years. And after I got out of the Sea Org, I came to realize just how off the rails and disgusting that behavior was. And I got to say it. I've said this before. This is nothing new. I am grossly ashamed of that behavior. Because it just wasn't the right thing to do. And all the reasons for it were completely wrong. I mean, completely wrong. And that's what I mean about how it becomes a method of coercion and control. Because the only reason that was happening is because the Sea Org wanted to hold on to two of its members. And anyway, and yet Scientology seems to have a position, L. Ron Hubbard seems to have a position where abortion is really not okay, and attempted abortions are all, littered throughout Dianetics as this horrible, awful thing that should never happen. So, okay. So I don't know, I think we've kind of set the stage a little bit. Let's go ahead and start taking some calls because we have calls in the queue here. All right, David.
Hello.
Hey, man. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, it's good to be back. Yeah. Obviously a very topical topic of discussion tonight. I just want to say to begin, I'll obviously be very interested in reading your QAnon essay whenever you post that, and maybe your thesis when you finish that too. It is, in the UK, it is about 15,000 words, and it takes longer to write than you think. I gave myself 2.5 months to write it, and 1 month in, I was thinking, am I really going to get this finished on time? No, I did, and I got 71 in it, so that went quite well.
Good job.
So yeah, I'll definitely looking forward to hearing it. I just want to quickly ask them, you said about your QAnon thing, about a research proposal. If you don't mind me asking, why would you not want to submit that maybe as a PhD proposal when you finish this? Because that could be something that could help you build an academic career in this kind of thing.
Fair enough, because I don't necessarily want to go through that whole process, and I've got other ideas of what I want to do post grad. I've got some books and things I want to actually pump out, and that's why.
Oh yeah, fair. I mean, my brother is an academic at the moment, and it was quite hard for him to get his first job. So.
I won't be using this degree to try to, at least I don't have any plans right now of trying to use this degree to gain employment, because factually I kind of love what I'm doing right now. But I do hope it will open some doors for me.
Yeah. Oh, that's good.
Yeah. So did you have something on the topic at hand this week?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, I know it's obviously a very controversial topic, but I do happen to assume better motives than coercive control in a lot of the defenders of laws like this. Now, I wouldn't pass a law like the one that's been passed in Texas. My personal view is that if I was in a country where abortion was legal, I would not vote to criminalize it. But if I was in a state where it was illegal, I'm not sure whether I would vote to repeal that ban, because it is a very sensitive issue. I happen to believe that life does begin at conception, but I also believe it's not really the state's business to tell you whether or not you can have an abortion. Okay, fair enough.
I happen to, at least agree with you on the latter half of that, because I think that it should be 1,000% a personal decision. I also find it interesting in discussing this. You're not bringing this up, but just to get since I just thought of this and want to get this out. From the religious angle, from the biblical angle, the Bible actually describes abortion, talks about it, and says that life begins at the baby's first breath, as I understand that. So even the religious arguments seem to me to kind of fall apart if they're biblical, if they're Bible based, you know. But I don't.
I mean, there's most arguments from the Bible.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah, like
That's true.
you can find any quote to support anything somewhere in the Bible that contradicts itself. So,
Yes, I agree with that statement. Actually, everybody here knows I'm not the biblical guy, but I just find it hypocritical, you know, to a degree there that's used as a justification or rationalization for it.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think for a lot of Catholics, it doesn't really come from the Bible itself. It comes from the teachings of the Church. There is a line in there are two lines in the Catechism of the Catholic Church. One is abortion, infanticide, and the killing of children are among the most abominable crimes. And the second line that is in the Catechism of the Catholic Church about life begins at conception is a fetus would not become human if it was not human already. So those are two very important lines from the CCC that Catholics use.
Okay.
Their position.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, it's not so much a biblical thing.
No, it's not. I think, and you don't see a lot of people arguing from that position. So it's not a heavy duty thing, that I'm on some tear on. But I just thought it was worth commenting on for sure. I think, the philosophical point of, is it murder is a legitimate argument. I do believe that there is, that there are good philosophical arguments on the line on that. But I still believe that in terms of regulation of this, that it should be left to individual families, because the context of this, and as we see even in the comments here from some of you guys, this business of you can't do it after 6 weeks, I think is the Texas thing. It's right.
It's ridiculous. You don't know you're pregnant at 6 weeks.
Exactly.
Bingo. Right, and that's what Mel and I were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah, I find that a bit ludicrous.
Right, and that's just a symptom of the men who are making these laws not knowing anything about how women's reproduction actually works.
Right.
And how it varies from woman to woman,
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right, yes, the root cause really is too much fundamentalist religion in the brain. It used to be until about the 80s or 90s, it used to be that a lot of Protestant churches would differentiate themselves from the Catholic Church by saying we aren't as no on abortion as the Catholic Church. The Catholic Church is obviously well known for that, but I don't know what happened. I'm not a historian. I haven't followed the history of American religion. But something changed around the 80s or the 90s where it's now become an arms race between the Protestants and Catholics in America to see who can be the most anti-abortion possible. And when you look at the amount of evangelicals that run for office across the country, it's no wonder that those get into the legislature.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to ask you to speak up a little bit, David, because we're having a little bit of a hard time hearing you.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Thank you for that.
Okay.
There we go. Much better. Significantly better. Thank you.
Good.
Cool, man. You have any ideas on how we might push back on this from your external point of view from the U.S.?
I mean, not really, to be honest. I don't really know what kind of options would be open to people in the US. I do think one thing that I would discourage on a matter of principle is what happened in places like Georgia, where we're going to boycott the sports games. We're going to boycott the state if they pass a law we don't like. Because any time we do that to a red state, what is to stop people in red states or governors in red states doing that to a blue state?
Right.
And I don't think that is a floodgate that we want to open.
I would agree with you. I think we need to follow process in dealing with this. I don't think we need to go insane with it. But I do think that there needs to be resistance, social resistance for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But I agree with you that I think we should be following procedure in terms of dealing with it. All right. Well, we've got another call in the queue, so I'm going to let you go, David.
Okay. Can I say one tiny thing before I go? Because you talked about the Supreme Court not taking the case. I think a big needle test in the future could be if somebody was convicted under this law and then they argued it was unconstitutional. That could be another chance for this to go up the federal chain and maybe be declared unconstitutional. Agreed.
And considering that they are putting bounties out on women who are doing this now, and this is a thing.
Appalling.
I mean, it's absolutely appalling. So I don't see how the Supreme Court could continue to ignore this in the face of such blatant and human rights violations. So cool, man. Thank you for your input this week.
Yeah, great to be back.
Yeah, good to hear from you. Talk to you soon.
You too. Bye-bye.
All right, good deal. And I think we've got Henny here, so thank you for being patient with us, Henny. Hello.
Thank you. Hey, good evening. How are you, Chris? Hi, Melissa.
Hello.
Hey. Good to hear from you, Henny. We are good. How are you this fine evening?
Oh, it's always good. It's always good to hear from you. I love to hear your voice. And I want to say this is a great topic, and it can go on forever.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that you're posting your stuff, and I really am looking so forward to reading it. Yep. I wanted to say that first and foremost. Melissa, you have to back me on this, okay, Melissa?
Okay.
We are one. Okay, darling. Okay, so first of all, the topic of religion and women is one topic. And then the topic of what's going on in Texas is another topic.
Fair enough.
And I thank you. And I'm so appalled at what's going on in Texas. Because, again, the government steps in and but absolutely does do what they want to do, which is to reverse Roe versus Wade and do what they think is best. And on the board, of these people who want to do it are 3 men and 1 woman, with a bunch of people behind them. I really can't tell the genders behind them. I only could tell the people at the desk. Okay, here's my thinking. And please, Chris, you can always tell me whatever you think. I respect your opinion and everything like that. I do.
Of course.
When the Constitution was written, it starts with all men are created equal. Okay? Mm-hmm. And during that time, women were not allowed to vote. Mm-hmm. And wonderful Melissa Huff would not be wonderful Mrs. Melissa Huff. She would be Mrs. Christopher Shelton.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
And that's correct. And she had no rights and no nothing.
Yep.
Okay? So that in itself shows where the beginning of we're going to take control and you women mean nothing. And whatever your opinion is and whatever it is that you think means nothing. You are totally invalidated and you mean nothing in this society.
Yep.
If you were to take that Constitution and just omit the word men, you don't have to add anything. It would say all are created equal. Mm-hmm. We have not reached that point as of yet.
I agree.
Therefore, please, Chris, I know this is strong. I've been a little on the angry side lately, so I'm going to try to make it as brief as possible, okay?
All right.
All penises come from a vagina.
That's right.
That's exactly
Prove
right.
me wrong. Prove me wrong. I am waiting for that, okay?
Yep.
Therefore, because all the penises decided that vaginas meant nothing, then they are ineligible to deal with this conversation.
Yeah.
This is a conversation of vaginas.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
Of women.
Yep.
And we are excluding you. Because if it wasn't for us, there would be no you.
Exactly.
Chris, please, I'm trying to calm myself, okay? It's the Brooklyn. It's the whole thing, okay?
Yep.
This is just how I feel, okay?
Yep.
Now, I don't want to exclude anybody. You know that I'd like everyone to be a part of the conversation, but this is just not going anywhere. And 3 men and 1 woman have nothing to do with the conversation. 3 men can't have a child. Stand the fuck back.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Now we have 4 women on the board, and we decide amongst ourselves what's going to be.
Yep. Yep.
And okay,
Yep.
and I just feel that way. I'm sorry. That's just the way I feel.
No
Okay.
apology necessary. You are
Exactly.
nailing it, Henny.
Exactly. It
Chris,
should be up
I
to the
think-
women to decide what happens to women.
That's right.
Yes, especially because of the way things are. Now, I want to, okay, let's leave that to the side. The topic is religion and women. And I just want you to know that archaeologists believe that the female was considered the first deity
Mm-hmm.
over 200,000 years ago
Yep.
of human life on Earth.
Yep. I think that's
Okay?
right. Yep.
So that's correct. So, I mean, it goes all the way back. And women were considered in the Paleolithic and the Neolithic times to be the top notch. That was what God was considered.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And women were considered intertwined in the beginning of religion on Earth. Dig it.
Yep.
Okay?
Yep.
Creator, lawmakers, providers, inventors, hunters, and leaders in battle. Now, when this changed, Chris, I don't know. But this is what it was from the beginning. Now, someone in my way, in my beliefs, and in my thinking, I don't look at God with agenda.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just trying to think critically, Chris. Thank you for teaching me such a thing because it's wonderful.
Yeah, you're
I
hitting
don't
good
look
points
at-
here.
I don't look at God in that way.
Yep.
The gender,
Yep.
male or female. The way I look at God is love.
Mm.
The love that you feel for your wife, for your pet, for your child, for your friend, for your mother, for your sister. That feeling that you feel, that's God. And that's why I think that even atheists, which I always said I was, always say, oh my God. We all do it. I've heard you do it on many occasions. And you are so not religious in any way. Okay? It's a feeling. It's a feeling.
That's right.
Not agenda. Okay.
Yep.
So that's my take on religion and women. Okay. I do believe that was the first, belief system.
Mm-hmm.
And from there we twisted it to men, where there's this old man with I remember my son, whose name is Christopher also, by the way. Okay? Just giving you a little bit of personal stuff there. He said to me, Ma, what is God? And I know what his interpretation of it was. I could see, he thought of like this old man, white, with a robe long and a cape, maybe,
Yep.
And I said, God is love. And he looked at me, because that's really what I think.
Mm-hmm.
It's genderless. It goes, you have to think outside the box, and you have to use critical thinking. And because we're so, physical and I really think we lack being in touch with our spiritual side. I do. I know technology and everything, and we really have come very far. But as far as we've lost that basic knowledge of who we are and what it is. So that's just my take on things. And I know I got a little whatever, but that's me.
Hey, no worries, Henny. That's why we're here. I want to hear views like yours. So thank you very much for expressing all that. And you're getting a lot of agreement in the comments, and I think it's great.
Of course, I can't, because
I think you're breaking up a little bit. Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just wanted everybody to understand, the critics, and I appreciate them. I can't see the comments while I'm on the phone.
Oh, sure, of course. Of course.
I have to go back, and I won't go back till later because I don't want to miss any of what you have to say. But, Melissa, stand with me, and we don't, nobody has the right to tell us what to do with our bodies.
No.
I don't care who it is. No religious, no government, no nothing. This is our decision. Our decision.
Yep.
We make
when men
on that.
Thank you, Melissa. When men can give birth, they may absolutely have that right. Until then, they have to realize where they come from. And I've already expressed it. I think you guys are great. I love you. I'm going back to the show, and I hope that it was okay.
You were awesome, Henny. Thank you.
You're awesome, Chris. You're awesome, Melissa. Love you, Seven. Happy birthday. Talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, bye.
Excellent. Okay, good. And Henny made some great points, and in fact brought up a couple things, which were definitely important points. The most key one, of course, being that it's a bunch of old white guys who are making these laws. And that's not some anti-white guy statement. It's kind of a statement of fact. If you look at the legislation, if you look at the legislators, if you go back a couple of years and look at what happened, I think it was Alabama, you have 10 guys who are all deacons, bishops, ministers of Southern Baptist congregations deciding the law when it comes to women's reproductive rights. And I, as a guy, am going to say that's completely off the rails.
Yeah, I mean, for the guys out there that may disagree, just imagine if we tried to pass laws about when you can have vasectomies or when you can get your erection medicine.
That's right.
You'd be pissed.
Exactly. I mean, no group of men would ever put up with a group of women dictating to them on their reproductive rights on exactly those points, right? Okay, all men get vasectomies. And when a group of women decide, legislators, right, duly elected, I mean, let's go tit for tat on this, right? Let's go, okay, we're going to put a panel of elected legislators together who are women, and they're the ones who are going to decide when you get to reverse your vasectomy so you can go have kids.
Mm-hmm.
And if that makes you uncomfortable, it should, because it's disgusting. But it's a very analogous sort of thing. And I had a question that I was going to I forgot to throw out at the beginning of the show here, but I'll throw it out now. And it's just something to consider about this. What is the male version of regulation that exists? In other words, what laws exist that regulate male behavior, male reproductive behavior to the same degree? What's the parallel for men with abortion law?
Is there any?
Exactly. Is there even anything that comes close to comparing to the kind of legislation that exists to regulate women's bodies?
Robert's getting dictated the amount of money you pay through divorce court is definitely not the same thing as an abortion.
No, that's not. That's definitely not true. However, Robert, I will acknowledge the fact that family courts have a long tradition of I guess we could say some anti-father or anti-male decision making. That's acknowledged. This is a known thing. This is not some controversial statement I'm making. Okay, so I get that. But I will side with Melissa on this, that it is not the same order of magnitude as regulating physical, like actually regulating your body and what you can do with it. So, so I think there's an issue there. Okay. Yeah, no man can masturbate without his spouse's consent. Jill Anderson writes. Exactly. Like, how far are we supposed to go with this?
Right, or MD who says, are the men going to start paying child support at 6 weeks on? I mean, if we're calling that life.
Yeah, exactly.
I guess the insurance better start covering it too.
Exactly. Yeah, DNA companies will be swamped. I think that it's a fair statement to say that abortion is a very difficult and personal issue between a couple. Sometimes these couples are not even couples. You have one-offs, you have one-night stands, you have rape, right? You have lots of issues here. And no exceptions being made in Texas on any of that, medical or otherwise, as far as I understand, is completely unacceptable because the statistics. You can go into the studies. This is not some thing where women with wild abandon are just running to abortion clinics every weekend. This is a topic that is fraught with emotional difficulties and physical difficulties, right? And medical difficulties and third trimester abortions, sometimes those are medical. And in fact, I think
Most
almost
of the
always
time,
they are
yeah.
medical issues. And to just say, well, sorry, no. And if you die, too bad. This is where it just becomes absolutely coercive control. It just goes way beyond any bounds of reason and becomes dictatorial, authoritarian control. And that's what we're not really so cool about. Okay. So I wanted to bring up that. And then also you mentioned something about rich women. Did you want to talk about that?
Well, I think at least the part I want to talk about is they aren't as affected by this because they can fly to another state and get their stuff done. You know what I mean? Like, or if it becomes illegal countrywide, they can fly to another country and get it done. So I think, like, my point in that is this severely affects middle class and below women and women of color and stuff like that way more than it affects these women that are making 6-7 figure incomes and stuff like that.
That's right. That's exactly right. Now, it's interesting because I believe the Texas law doesn't particularly there's a thing about this law, if I understand it right, where you can't even leave the state as a Texas resident, get an abortion, and then come back into the state. You can still be persecuted for that under this law. So even that avenue for even the rich folks is seemingly cut off.
Yeah, but that they'll get away with it.
Well, yeah. Yeah, exactly. And good times on that. Now, I don't want to leave Travis hanging any longer, so we're going to pick him up. Hello.
Hey, good evening, Chris. Good evening, Melissa.
Hey, Travis. Welcome to the show.
Hello.
Well, thank you for taking my call. It's a rather heavy-duty topic tonight. You guys may want to consider doing a second or third installment.
Absolutely.
An idea for it.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. There's certainly more to say on this.
Well, it certainly sounds like one or both of you have a lot more to tease out in terms of a thought process and so forth. But I have a Scientology question.
Yeah, no, I figured. So throw it at us.
Yeah, Chris, you were in charge for a period of time wrangling errant cattle or sheep back into the fold for Scientology. And what did you call that? There's a particular name for that, right? Recovery?
Yeah, recovery. Yeah, I was doing recoveries. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I found a International Management Bulletin number 273 that was issued in 1995, and I think perhaps this was an issue that you had a lot of experience with. And it's actually called The Recovery of Students and PCs. That's the title of it.
Yep. I'm very familiar with that stuff.
Good, because I don't see... Listen, first I'll give you my opinion. Mm-hmm. I read through this, and it's Scientology management bulletins never cease to amaze me and how just obtuse and absurd they are.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Take the cake.
Yeah.
When I think I've reached the intellectual limit of the insanity, I find something else that tops the last thing I read.
Yeah.
So, before I read off some of the items I found in this, do you have a recap for the audience?
Yeah, sure. So Hubbard wrote a policy letter. This is not, you're reading from a management bulletin, but there is a Hubbard policy letter and a couple issues actually that talk about Scientologists who leave and how to get them back. And Hubbard actually provided a method because he said there were only X number of reasons why people would leave Scientology. He had a very exact list of things that you would utilize. And the idea, the method is that you would contact them and get in communication with them and get them talking to you. And then you would ask them point by point, well, which of these seems to be the problem? And it would be, if you were a student in the course room, then I think there were 5 main reasons why you would blow or take off. And if you were a pre-clear getting auditing, then there would be 4 different reasons why you might leave or take off. And included in these things are such things as, out ethics. You're just, doing things you shouldn't be doing. And you know it and you feel bad and then you leave and you don't want Scientology finding out. But there are other reasons, like for students in course rooms, maybe they passed misunderstood words, that they didn't understand. And you're supposed to clear that up with them, and then magically they're supposed to want to come back and continue their services. And this is something I did for years and years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Some of the statements, or one of the main statements or the main premises in the bulletin itself, is that people who have strayed, it says this like verbatim near the beginning. Mm-hmm. It says people who have strayed from the course, it says, are clearly in trouble personally.
Yep.
Now, yeah, I mean, so am I reading this correctly when I say that the idea here is that Scientologists or people in your position that you were in will always blame the person who has left and think that they're somehow screwed up in the head or whatever, right?
Yeah. The problem lies with them. Yes. Mm-hmm. The problem is always on them. Although, to be clear, some of the mistakes or some of the reasons are organizational issues that would have to be sorted out with the organization too.
Now, and this is something that you wholeheartedly believed when you were in, wasn't it?
It was, yeah.
Okay. That's sort of a big admission on your part. No shame in it. It just goes to show you how much progress you've made since you were in Scientology. It's a big deal.
Yeah.
Now, it mentions being ARC broken, ARC?
ARC broken, yes.
Was that?
Yep.
Yeah, that's the methodology, or excuse me, that's what you just said, the symptomology of what, the person being a poop head. Now, yeah. Let me ask you a question.
Yep.
I have to ask, because you were a true believer and you were there and you believe that it was the person's fault. Again, I've been involved with some dumb stuff in my past too.
Sure.
So the policy letter says this 4-step or 5-step process works every time. It literally says that. You read it.
Yep.
Does anybody look at that and take it seriously?
Yep. I mean, in Scientology, everybody takes it seriously. Absolutely. It's L. Ron Hubbard.
Yeah, well, so that was something that L. Ron Hubbard wrote.
Oh, yeah. The recovering, that bulletin you're reading is based on L. Ron Hubbard policy. Those are not ideas that international management people had. Those are ideas L. Ron Hubbard had, and then they elaborate on them in those management bulletins.
Yeah, to be fair, the bulletin doesn't distinguish that.
Yeah.
In fact, for everybody watching, the gentleman who wrote this is named Russ Williams, Commander Russ Williams, and I'm sure he's in the hole right now, or he's in an alley somewhere drinking his head off because he's messed up.
Yeah.
He also puts in there that putting forth Hubbard's plan here works with spectacular success.
Yep.
Okay. Now, Chris, you got to explain this to me. Spectacular success.
Yeah.
You're walking around, you're trying to recover people. Spectacular success has got to be a variable term for Scientologists, right?
Well, I suppose. I mean, the idea is that it works 100% of the time if you do it right. It's a scientific process almost. I mean, this is how Scientologists think about it. And realize, of course, that when you're recovering a Scientologist, you are recovering a Scientologist. So the person you're talking to isn't going to look at you from as though you're coming from Mars. They're also in the belief set to a degree, and they think L. Ron Hubbard knows what he's talking about. So when you point out to them, hey, L. Ron Hubbard said the reason you would leave a course room, there's only 5 of them, man, and you're telling me it's this and this and this, but I'm telling you L. Ron Hubbard wrote it's X, Y, or Z, and that's what we're going to look at right now, and that's what we're going to go over. And to the degree that you can have a agreeable, communication with the person, conversation with the person, you got to be pretty smooth doing this, is kind of my point. But you do have a basis of agreement with the person you're recovering that L. Ron Hubbard is a guy who knows what he's talking about, or most of the time you have that. So that's just something I want to throw in there.
Okay, well, that helps to explain some things, because I'm assuming this next statement is from Hubbard himself. It says the public hates like hell to be denied Scientology and Dianetics.
Yep, that is definitely an L. Ron Hubbard quote. They hate
Right.
like hell. And they get really pissed and they leave because you're denying them, right? And that actually is an encapsulation of the flow that L. Ron Hubbard has to the staff. Is you guys, by not doing your job or not doing your job properly, are actively denying the gains of Scientology to the public at large. And that's why it's that kind of attitude that sprinkles down to the staff and becomes that it's their fault that this guy took off or left or has disagreements or whatever, and they're actively denying him Scientology.
Okay.
Yeah, if that makes sense.
Wow, this is it does, and it's such a myopic view. Not what you just told me, but the policy letter itself. I'm not saying this to be funny here, although it could be quite comical, or might be comical in a sense, in a dark way. I'm surprised that the rate of self-harm among Scientologists, like staff members and Sea Org members, isn't extraordinarily high. Because getting told this kind of stuff constantly,
yeah,
put me in a headspace that I don't even want to think about.
Well, let me comment on that by saying that I think you wouldn't be surprised, of course. I don't think anybody that I'm talking to here on the show would be surprised by this, but it was a dawning, sort of cosmic explosion moment for me when I had this realization about a year or two ago. Oh my God. How many Sea Org members right now, and while I was there, are actively suffering from complex PTSD, anxiety, and depression because of this, continual battering on their conscience, on their conscience, on their morality, on their very worth as beings, and that's a real problem there that I think you have a bunch of undiagnosed issues there with Sea Org members.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that, I don't like hearing that. So
yeah.
I'm not a big hug person, but if I could, I would go to the Sea Org people, just give them a hug, tell them, hey, you too, by the way, in a non-weird way, I'd give you a hug.
I understand.
Hey, y'all are cool. Y'all are good. Don't worry about this.
Yeah. Big time.
And so, by the way, just FYI, something for y'all to talk about tonight or in the future, and I'll hang up after this comment, is how distorted thinking is something that plagues somebody who is recovering from a destructive cult like Scientology, and also somebody who is recovering from a mental health deal. Okay, Melissa, that's for you. Don't take that the wrong way. You've been talking about mental health stuff in the past, so I want you to understand it flows with the topics that you've talked about in the past, okay? Yeah. And I think maybe you've read something about this, maybe you haven't. It's just something to think about and talk about, okay? Because I think that subtle little point plays a tremendous role. My opinion.
Absolutely.
There you go.
Cool, man.
So, thanks for taking my call, y'all.
All right. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye. All right, we've got some other calls in the queue we're going to pick up. First off, Christine. Hello.
Hi.
Hi. Hey, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Did you hear that dog barking? I apologize.
Oh, it's all right.
No worries.
Okay. I'm walking my dog, and I walked by another dog. Melissa, hi.
Hello.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that quote you gave
Oh, you're very
last
welcome.
week. And I thought I love Stephen Fry. I'm a big fan, but even if I didn't know the guy, it was such a introspective quote for me, because I too suffer from several disorders, and it is hard to be friends and make friends. It can be very isolating.
Mm-hmm.
And I was at the gas station a few days after I heard you share the quote, and a gentleman came up to me asking for some change, of which I didn't have any. But I did have my debit card on me, and I thought about what you shared. So I went up to him, asked him his name. His name is Josh. Looked him right in the eye. I told him mine, and I offered to buy him food. I said, "Are you a Coke or a Pepsi?" He said, "Pepsi." Like Doritos or Lay's? And he said, "Lay's." Like roast beef or chicken? He said, "Chicken." So I came back out with a chicken sandwich, Pepsi and Lay's, and a bag of M&Ms, and sat and talked to him for just a few minutes.
Oh, wow.
And it was so nice. So like, he was obviously suffering from something, and we talked for maybe it wasn't even 5 minutes, but it was enough where I got the opportunity to see him and acknowledge him, and he did the same for me. And we are all so much more alike than we are unalike, as Maya Angelou says. So, I left the gas station feeling full, like I had a new friend. Like if I went back there in a couple of days, he might still be around, and I could say, "Hey, Josh."
Yeah.
And he would say, "Hi, Christine," and I'd have a friend. So I wanted to share that with you because I thought you'd like to hear it, because you took the time to find the quote and think about it. And I'd love to hear what you did with that quote, if it inspired you somehow, or if you shared it with other people in your life.
Well, first of all, that's a great story, and I'm glad you did that. That was very kind of you. Not everybody always does that. If they don't have cash, sometimes they just walk away or ignore them, So that was
Well, I might have, but your voice was in my head. So the quote was in my head, and so I was like, here's an opportunity.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah, and I think I try to do that. I try to live that quote with people, like my uncle, for instance. He's got some disabilities, and I always try to be there for him and be kind to him and be patient, and that kind of thing.
Yeah, you do really good with him. Yeah.
Well, that's terrific. So anyway, I wanted to share. Thank you so much, and you guys keep it up. And that last call from the Scientology question was great.
Awesome. Well, Christine,
Yeah.
let me give you a sound effect here. I don't get to use my buttons often enough, so well done.
There you go. So was that being cheered? Was I being cheered?
You were being
Yeah.
cheered. That's correct. Yes.
Fantastic. All right. Well, you two have a really great holiday weekend.
Thank you.
you.
You
And,
too.
Thanks so much.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Awesome. Random acts of kindness
Yeah.
inspired by our show. I am 1,000% down for that. Thanks to Christine for calling in on that. And we have one more call we're going to pick up. We are moving into the last part of the show, so this will be the last call we're going to pick up. And I think this is Jordana. Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Good evening. Hi. With regards to the topic of women/religion,
Yes.
I have a couple points
Yep.
that have not been addressed within the U.S. It has been addressed beyond the U.S., but not necessarily addressed within the U.S.
All right.
Point number one, with regards to the lack of abortion now in Texas. Recently, I had heard a professor discuss the importance of economics and how women are very important to the current structure of economics in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
Not so much in other countries because they're allowed certain civil rights that we do not have as women here, like staying home for 6 months with your child and so on and so
Right.
forth.
That's right.
So one, if they do this in Texas, the number one entrepreneur in the U.S. is Black women. They are also the number one population that will be greatly impacted by this.
Mm-hmm.
So the economic balance in Texas will then shift poorly. So that means there will be less money in the state of Texas, which is really stupid.
Yes, and
Think about
the point you're bringing up here is one of many instances or examples of how these guys do shoot themselves in the foot with this kind of legislation
they're not,
constantly. No,
They're
they
not,
are.
though. They don't care. No,
well,
they don't
no.
care.
I know they don't
They
care,
want
but the
a
long-term
population-
consequences are going to recoil on them.
No, they don't, because what they care about is the upper echelon of funding. The lower population does not fund their particular interests. The upper population does.
Mm-hmm.
And so they really don't care. What they do want is a larger population within that lower demographic willing to do menial jobs for less dollars.
Okay.
That's what they want. They want more because in Texas specifically, more and more of the younger generation has left Texas.
Mm-hmm.
So who's going to replace the jobs in the fast food, in the warehouses, in the lower menial jobs?
Mm-hmm.
They need a new population to fill that. That's been discussed over time by various economists in the world.
Mm-hmm.
So that is a very vital aspect that they don't care. For example, historically, Texas didn't care when they damaged one of their most famous rivers.
Mm-hmm.
Robert Redford did a whole documentary on that.
Mm-hmm.
They don't care. They care about the immediate dollars. Oh, I can get money from this investor. I can get money from this particular PAC. I can get money. That's all they care about. Is if they can feed into, they meaning the politicians at hand, can feed into their sources to achieve a greater economic balance in their political pocketbook. That's all they care about.
Okay.
But the second part allows them to do something else, which is the subjugation of women.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
For example, I remember you talking in the past about the incels
Mm-hmm.
and how they particularly hate women because women will not kowtow, or do anything they want whenever they want, how they want it.
Exactly.
And this is now a population that is subjugated because we'll go back to the 70s, for example, and Farrah Fawcett did a lovely movie on that called Burning Bed, where a woman was subjugated to marry into a poor family because she never thought she could get beyond that because she had a lower education, and this was all available to her. That particular movie, based on a real story, showed a woman who ended up going to jail trying to defend herself, though far to the far end of the spectrum
Yes.
in killing her husband. But that is going to cause a problem because these men will now feel that they can subjugate women more than they could before because, women's lib. Well, there's no more women's living, Texas, if you can't defend yourself sexually. If you can't defend yourself reproductively.
That's right. I think the key word here is submit.
Yeah.
Yeah, we see this. We see this throughout the South.
myth.
Yeah, we see this, and and encapsulated in the Alabama law and the Texas law and the Georgia law. This is an attitude rife through religious circles in the South.
Right.
Yeah.
And that daddy knows best.
That's
they want to return to daddy knows best.
Exactly.
The other thing that they want to know, they want to return to, I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut off.
No, you're good. I didn't mean to cut you off either. I was just trying to reinforce your point.
Gotcha. I just don't know how long I have to talk, so I'm talking faster than normal.
Fair enough.
To continue with that particular thought, what they're basically doing is forced slavery. So now you have these women who are not now locked with no income source because they have to stay home and take care of these children into basically indentured servitude. So the only thing you can do is you can't go and do your career anymore. You can only clean houses or do part-time work. You can go work at McDonald's because you cannot, because you have to be home in time to pick up your kids. You can't go early because you have to wait for your kid to go to school at 9 o'clock in the morning, but your job normally would start at 8 and you can't go.
Right.
Okay. I kind of know a little bit about this because I have an autistic son, which doesn't allow me to maintain a full-time job. I have to be able to jump at the beck and call of the school.
Right.
So I'm quite aware of that particular loss of economics and freedom.
Yep.
My third point, I'm kind of going back to the dad knows best, is there's the nostalgia you were referring to before. Nostalgia of returning back to the 50s where women didn't go to college. Not the majority, only those that had funding. And women would not have intellectual development. There would be less female doctors. There would be less female lawyers. Oh, if there's less female doctors and less female lawyers, we have less bitchy women to tell us what to do.
Yep.
That's the premise.
Yep.
Let alone a PhD or anything else. Plus, you have the male superiority breadwinner concept.
That's right.
Which is overall a problem that has existed in the U.S. since pretty much inception. But
well, it's got historical context
in England,
going all the way back.
It was prevalent in other countries. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just referring to the U.S. I can discuss Europe and I can discuss Asia, but I'm just referring to the U.S. given the fact that the U.S. passed this particular law against its own citizenry. And that is a serious problem. I also wanted to pose a question. Actually, two. One, what happens to the forts in Texas? That means every military personnel in Texas, which is federally run, those lands are federally owned and federally mandated, which means there's federal protections medically. Are they going to go after the women who are military personnel or military wives who go and get abortions on the base?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Think about it.
Yeah.
You can't. They can't. If they try, they're going to call in the whatever 1-800 number they come up with. Oh, you had an abortion. Yeah, well, I live on base.
I'd like to see one of those bounty hunters try to take a military personnel.
Right.
That might be very interesting to watch. Yeah.
Well, it's not a bounty hunter. What they've done is they've done basically a lawsuit. A civilian has the right to sue another civilian. Because again, they didn't differentiate between military and civilian. So I'm just going to state civilian.
Sure.
That possibly might have gone through an abortion.
Okay.
Possibly. So a civilian can bring a lawsuit. It's not quite the bounty hunter concept. It is a civilian can call in, say, I think this woman had an abortion illegally. Please look into it. Here's my information. Yes, I want the reward. Because it's a $10,000 reward, I believe, is what I saw. For each confirmed case. So I'd like to see them try that federally. And to be honest, I cannot understand how the Supreme Court let this pass, knowing there are federal military bases there. Because if they try to enforce it, then it's going to go back to the Supreme Court and says, can a state federally mandate federal employees to follow state regulations? And the answer is no, because they can't do that on Indian reservations. They can't do that in territories. They can't do that legally that way. So
it's a great point you bring up. No, it's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And my last kind of concept question, and this is, I don't mean to put this in any, I don't mean to put Scientology in any positive light, so I'm not going to use them as a religious context here. But I will state this. What if, and there are religions currently in existence, have been in existence for quite some time, so they have to recruit because they don't reproduce. They are against reproduction. Some of them are against sex completely, but some of them are against reproduction completely, which they became more and more prevalent after the pill and after the abortion process happens. What if one of those religions goes to court and says, you're impeding on my religious freedom to have an abortion? Because in my religion, I am allowed to have an abortion, or I am required to have an abortion for my religious sake.
You know, the Church of Satan, I believe, is contemplating something along those lines.
Yeah.
Just as a point.
Because I wasn't thinking of that particular point, but there's a couple of religions that started in Pennsylvania, which were Quakerish, but not completely Quakerish. They took it to the extreme of that particular branch of Christianity, where, you know, you want to be as pure as whatever entity they're following in Christianity, whether it's a saint or a particular individual or Jesus or whatever the case may be. I'm not sure, so I'm just broadening the scope here. They can do this. And if it becomes a religious right to have an abortion, then literally anyone can go to an abortion clinic and say, I'm doing this for my religious right. I do not have to prove to you that I belong to a religion, because we don't do that in the United States. You don't carry a card saying, oh, I belong to this particular church.
Right.
And I don't belong to that particular place. So how are they going to question that particular offer?
I have no idea, but it's a good point.
You had also mentioned that you thought it was illegal to transport somebody out of the state.
I believe the wording. I believe the wording of the law says that even if you go out of the state and come back in, they can still prosecute you, even though the action didn't occur in the state.
Well, then there's a problem. I'm trying to remember which major company. Oh, I forgot. I just forgot it. Oh, crap. A major company, billions of dollars a year. I can't remember which one it is. Just offered internally to any employee, whoever is in Texas who wants to have an abortion, they will legally pay for their flight and their procedure.
Got it. Well, I would have to look again, but
doing that.
Okay. Well, I'd have to look again, but I believe that would still fall under that law, that ban or whatever, and they could still possibly get in trouble. But I'd have to confirm that.
Right, but that would be a corporation.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That would be a corporation who has got as I said, it's a highly valuable commodity in Texas, because everything in Texas is about wealth.
Right.
And if that major ass corporation, decides that it does not want to play games with that particular judgment call by those men, no women, in the legislation that decided that they were going to put forth this particular law, then they're going against the corporation, which we know is the bread and butter of Texas.
Right.
And go for it. You want to try? I see all the big corporations going, wait. Our women's staff can't come back to work now?
Right.
What? Why can't they don't have enough babysitters. They don't have any money. They don't have any this or that.
Exactly. Yeah. And this is what I meant earlier when I was talking about how they're shooting themselves in the foot with this, is there are just a bunch of unintended consequences of this that are going to hit them right in the face, you know? And I got that they don't care. They haven't even thought about it, but that doesn't mean it's not going to happen. You know, that's where I was trying to go with that. So,
understood.
Yeah.
I think you're correct. In the long term, it's going to shoot them in the foot, but some of them basically don't believe they're going to be there by next election.
Yeah.
And they're hoping that this will occur.
Right.
Also, if we're going to follow historical mandates and follow the case of Ceausescu, who forced women to go through pregnancies regardless, just as this law has, and created an imbalance of population, and thus the downfall and people ripping him to shreds in the street, because you had an entire population that had no funding, no parents, were abandoned, no livelihood, no education, no nothing, because the government then abandoned them after they were born. They took arms and they went after their leader, their communist leader, and took him down and became democratic.
Well, you know,
but they're really pushing. They're really, if you're going to use historical data, then you will see that if you follow this model and you prevent people from having abortions, there will be within 2 generations a population that will rise up against you and fry you.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. That's what I mean.
But how many lives are you going to destroy in the process?
Exactly. Which is why we need to push back now. All right, I'm going to let you go because we are way over time.
I apologize. That's why I said I was talking quick.
Thank you for calling in and sharing your views. I definitely wanted to hear all this, so thank you.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Awesome.
Good evening.
Good evening. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right. Good deal. Only because we are so over time, we are wrapping up now. Huge topic, and I knew it was, and I wanted the calls, and I wanted your guys' opinions. So don't get me wrong on any of that. I'm happy to go over, except we start losing viewers and stuff a little bit too, and because we've kind of established this as sort of an hour-long show, and that's kind of the parameters we got with it. So I don't mean to just be rude about this, but I do want to keep the show to a predictable length as much as possible for people. That being said, there is a lot more to talk about with this in terms of the coercive control aspects of this that I was going to use to fill time. But like I said, this is a call-in show. I wanted to hear from you guys more than I wanted to hear me monologue on this. So thank you very much for all the callers who came in on this. And we are far from done with talking about everything connected with it. I want to thank the super chats. I saw Sandy and Alex throw some love our way. Thank you very much for that. And of course, I will always encourage everybody to help us keep the lights on here and keep the phone calls coming by throwing us some love through PayPal or through super chats, or best of all, of course, is joining us on Patreon. And I'm going to say, we really could use that. So if you are of a mind to support the show, then please do so. We need to do our critical thinking cards because I hate it when I forget to do this. So we will do our cognitive biases and logical fallacies for the week. This week it is...
Ambiguity.
Ambiguity. All right. What is that? Ambiguity, using double meanings or ambiguities of language to mislead or misrepresent the truth. Okay, this is a logical fallacy. You can do this, and people do this, and they generally screw up their thinking as a result. The example given in the card: when the judge asked the defendant why he hadn't paid his parking fees or fines, he said that he shouldn't have to pay them because the sign said, "Fine for parking here." And so he naturally presumed that it would be fine for him to park there. That's actually pretty good.
I like it.
I kind of like that. So ambiguity can be a logical fallacy you guys should be watching out for out there when you're evaluating information. A couple other things I wanted to say real fast, just because it came up in the comments. I saw that we had, I'm not going to call Robert a troll or this other guy a troll, but I will say that when people accuse me of having left a cult and joining another cult of liberalism or the left or the woke or some kind of crap like that, one, I've already spoken at length about the problems with the woke left.
Yeah.
That is not me. And if you think that I am, you have absolutely no idea what you're talking about. And I'm going to say that as, strongly as I am, because it pisses me off when people say shit like that to me. I did not leave a cult and join another one. That's not my life. And it's an insult that drives pretty deep into my heart when people say that to me. So I'm not cool with it, and I'm not okay with it, and I don't want to hear that. It's just not true. The liberalism is not a cult.
No.
Neither is conservatism. These are political, philosophical views.
Yeah, there's cults within it, but not the whole thing.
Exactly. You have extremism on both ends of the political spectrum, and extremist fringe views exist. People get together with these extremist views and rile each other up, and you get cult-like behavior, radicalized extremist behavior, and you get that on both sides of the equation. You will never see me on either end of those extreme positions. I don't do that. I don't go out and beat people up because of my political views or ideology. I don't go engage in riots and protests and violence because of my views. And I don't incite others to try to harm or hurt other people, nor do I use my beliefs or ideology in a way to manipulate people or control them. And that's what cultists do. So if you're going to throw stuff like that at me, then you better be prepared to defend that dumbass statement. Okay? And I'm sorry if that comes across too strongly, but that's just where I'm at on it. I don't like it. Okay? That all being said, we're going to wrap up.
Yeah.
Yes, I think that is everything we had. The podcast this week will be Scientology oriented. It's already uploaded. It's good stuff. I think you guys are going to like it. It's Cyprian and I discussing more about Scientology's organizational madness and the nonsense that goes on and the stress and the anxiety and stuff like that, and where that comes from and how Scientology operates with that. So I think you guys will like the podcast this week. And our Q&A show will be recorded as usual. So I jumped to live last week because of some logistic things, but this week it will be a pre-recorded show. All right. Thanks very much, guys, for listening to me ramble on here. And
yeah, thank you.
And joining Mel and I for this. All right. Let's go ahead and wrap it up. Yes, we go this way to do that. All right, guys. Bye-bye.
Good night.